Hey everybody, this is Josh, and we are going to go through opening up and assembling the TLC Rotary V2. So, pop this guy open, got our instruction manual, but we don't need that since we're doing the video. We have a wire, 2 bags, bolts and hardware. We've got a motor with the gear, brass gear already installed on it. Got the motor side of the body. Is a lift. Got our 2 aluminum rails, slide, the tensioning arm, and the small side, just to hold everything together. Our first step is going to be putting these 3 bolts into our motor side here. We're going to use the tensioning arm to space them out because the first bolt up on this corner is going to actually hold this arm. These 2 are much less critical, but I like to make them the same distance out as this one. So these holes are unthreaded, but they're sized correctly so that you can just get them in with your Allen wrench here without too much hassle at all. And just tighten them up until that head comes close to this plastic piece here. Like I said, these 2 are not very critical, and it's only important on this guy to have it so that you can still move the swing arm a little bit. So later on we'll put this arm on here and be able to allow it to swing up and down. You'll be able to see how that's used at the end of the video. At step 2, we're going to attach our drive wheel onto our motor side. So we're going to flip this around. The bolts you just put on are on the back. And we are going to put our bolt through here, our M5 washer, and we're going to use this hole here. It is threaded, makes it a lot easier rather than having to try and force the bolt in. And we're just going to hand tighten this until it's on there. There we go. Step 3, we're going to attach our motor onto the motor side. So we're going to take this plug and have it turned out to the side here, just so it's easier to get to the wire and whatnot later on. We're going to take our small bolts again, and we're going to put on this first guy. And we don't really need to go very tight because we're going to adjust the motor just a small amount. And our second bolt. So we're just going to lightly tighten that, but we still want it to move. And this one. So we are going to push it like this, so it pushes into our drive wheel here, and you want to go all the way. And just tighten that guy, and tighten that one. So everything should be fine. If you can turn your drive wheel like this, it just turns your brass piece. All right. Step 4, we're going to assemble the small idler wheel that will be able to go along this slot here. So first things first, we're going to put our O-ring on our bearing here. That makes your idler wheel. Then we're going to put through our small knob here and our small M3 nut. This just acts as a spacer. It's either that or stack up a bunch of washers. So this is a good way of doing this. And just to make everything slide a little bit easier, we have our final washer right there. So at this point, we're going to put it through our slot and put on our nut knob right there. So this will allow you to rest your glass on the drive wheel as well as on your idler, and you can adjust this in for smaller items or out for bigger items. Also, it allows it to drop a piece of glassware closer to the bottom of your machine so you can really utilize all the available space to you. Step number 5, we're going to do the same thing we just did twice, but we're putting them onto our lift here. So our O-ring on there. I use our knob, M3 nut, and I'm just going to assemble the other half, or other one again. Go. And our washer. I'm going to put that through the slot. And knob on the back. Go. There we go. This will hold the other side of your glassware or whatever you're working on, and you'll be able to adjust the same this way. Step number 6, we're going to attach our lift onto our slide, and we're going to bolt into these 2 threaded holes here. So we'll use our shorter M5 knobs. We're just going to go through these slots into the holes. And this will allow you to easily adjust for taper on the glassware and whatnot. Once you've got these set, you can easily raise and lower it a little bit if you need to. On to step number 7 here. We are going to be assembling the tensioning arm. I like to have the motor side nearby so that I can make sure that I can build it in the right direction. I have built it mirrored before, but it's nice to remember that the wheel goes on this side. Alright, so I'm going to start off with putting in our rubber band piece here. So we're just going to tighten that in there. So this is where the rubber band will attach to the tensioning arm and will tension onto these bolts in the back here. Put those on. Then we are going to put our small little idler wheel here together with our O-ring. And we got our M8. Sorry, M3 8mm. Little washer here to prevent it from binding up. And we're going to put that onto this little plastic swing arm. So this is threaded, so it should be nice and easy to get on there. First little bit of assembly. So then this needs to get onto that hole there. So we have our long knob here. Slide that on there. Our spacer. And put that onto our swing arm. And the last piece is this knob here. Alright, so that is all assembled, like so. And that will be able to drop on right here. So this can go on the inside or outside of the glass as well, which we'll show a little bit later. Just whatever works for the piece you were working on and what your space above it between the laser head and the rotary is. Step 8, we're going to attach the rails and all the body pieces together, and we're going to make sure to remember to put in these T-slots into the slots here. But first, we're going to attach off to the side here. And I like to do this loose first, just sort of finger tight, and then tighten everything once everything's sort of put together on a flat surface so that there's no distortion on it or whatnot. All these rails are threaded on the ends there to make it nice and easy. Otherwise they wouldn't go in at all. Alright, before I put on this small side over here, we're going to slide our T-slot nut in there and on this side. Alright, make sure your T-slot nuts are facing up, and then with our included wrench here, we will tighten each one up, holding this down to make sure it doesn't spin. Alright, almost done. Step number 9, we are going to attach our slide assembly here, and we need to put these knobs in to our T-slots. Don't forget to use a little washer here, helps everything slide a little bit easier. Alright, by loosening these, we'll be able to slide forward and backwards on our machine. And then we will place our tensioning arm on here. You don't have to use this on every glass piece, but it does help a lot for most pieces. And then we just take the rubber band and put it onto our bolts on the end, like so. You can adjust this however you want. If you need to add some tension, you can double up on it like so, and it just makes it hold tighter, but sometimes that causes slippage. So this configuration is good for most, but play around with it a little bit. Okay, let's take a look at how to put a piece of glassware into this machine. I've taken off the tensioning arm just to make it a little easier to see what's going on, but usually I leave it on when I'm adjusting. So the goal is to have good contact with our drive wheel on one side and on our idler on the other side. And we would like to have the glass also level inside of your machine. So you want your laser to be able to go across this face nice and easily. You don't want it to be changing depth. Also, I'm going to be setting it up so that the glass is very close to the bed of your machine, or in this case, the table. And it's okay if it's higher up, but I know that lots of machines, there's not very much space, and that's why this was designed so low. So we're going to put this on here, and we're just going to start by loosening this guy and widening it until it touches the bottom. So right there it's touching. I'm going to bring this in just a little bit just to bring it up off the bottom, and I'm going to tighten it right here. There we go. So there's about 1 millimeter underneath the glass so it can freely spin. And the second half is we need to do our lift on this side. So we're going to bring this in. This is the more tricky side to do, but once you get it set in, it's really easy to swap things in and out, and it's not too difficult. So I'm going to bring this down first. And our glass wants to sit right around here. So I'm going to bring the wheels in a bit. And make it a little easier on myself. I'll lift it up to start. Give or take about the halfway mark. And just so you know, these sides don't need to be perfectly level. They can be tilted a little bit and it won't really affect anything. But we're going to bring these in. And we want to lift the glass up just a little bit. So when I lifted the glass up, it actually sort of pulled it away from this back plastic piece. So I'm going to loosen these guys up, bring it in a little bit closer. And we don't want the plastic to really push into the glass, but we want it to be very close. It'll prevent it from wobbling around too much. Okay. That's pretty good right there. I'm going to make sure these are tightened because you don't want them to loosen up during laser cutting. And the next thing is to make sure everything's level here. So this is going to be a little hard for you to see, but I'm going to loosen these bolts up. We're just going to bring that up like so. I usually do this inside the machine, so I'm able to run the laser head across the top, back and forth, and just make sure that's good. It doesn't have to be super, super, super tight, but it improves your image quality if it's nice and close. I'd say it's okay to vary about 1 millimeter, maybe 2 millimeters, but the tighter it is, the cleaner the cut. All right, and then the last piece, now this is level, and between the two points here, we're gonna put our tensioning arm. And I like to go on the inside of the glass if possible. So you'll see it's coming in contact very close to the drive wheel here. So that's one method. You can also come on the outside of the glass and hold it down from the top. I don't like doing this just because some laser cutters don't have very much space between the objects they're cutting and the wheel here, so it can run into it. Most diode lasers have a good distance, but lots of CO2 lasers are very close to the object they're about to cut. So I like to do it on the inside. And you can see there's 3 different notches here so that you can adjust where everything is. And I'm just going to do the standard sort of triangular shape right here. And if you're concerned about this wheel being a little wobbly, you can either tighten this bolt up a little bit, but honestly it's okay for it to have a little bit of leeway. You'll see also if you see the glass moving a little bit, that's a problem. You actually want to bring the swing arm in inside underneath the drive wheel just a little bit, and that'll prevent that. Now it won't wiggle. All right, before you ever do any cuts too, the last thing you want to check is you want to put it in your machine and run it forward and backwards. And if you find the glass wobbling like this, these 2 wheels in the back here are off center, and so it's causing it to lift and wobble. So you either need to bring them off to the left or to the right. So the nice thing though, once you got everything set up, especially for one glass type, if you're making a bunch of something, it's really easy to engrave. Lift this up, move it to the side, pull in the next one, and if everything's locked into your machine, I like to tape it down just so it's not permanent. You can just swap glasses in and out really quickly. All right, that's how to assemble and get glassware set up on your TLC V2.